everyone. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. We are here with an ongoing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign titled Evermore le Masquerade. Tonight's session is going to be session number 21, titled The Road to Manchalona. This has been a game that takes place in a homebrew world of mine known as Rostveen. In particular, this is in a kingdom known as Gerdes, which is heavily based on the Baroque periods of Spain and France and Venice, with a little bit of Orlais from Dragon Age kind of mixed in there as well. This has been going on for, I think we talked about this a little while ago, over a year now, which is amazing. And I'm really, really excited to get into tonight, because for the first time in this campaign, we will be leaving the city of Alidalgo completely behind us and traveling into the Gerdessi countryside to see what else this place has to offer. So I'm really, really stoked to get to what I have planned tonight. But before we do, there's a couple of points that I want to go over, the same kinds of things that I touch on before every single game, and that is, if foul language and mature subject matter are things that bother you, then you should not watch anything on this channel, but particularly this game. In particular, this game will contain a lot of innuendo and sexuality. Though we will never explicitly have sex in this game, we will toe the line about as close as we can, as it is a part of the Gerdessi culture. So, if that kind of stuff does not bother you, if in fact it intrigues you, then welcome. Bienvenidos. So I'm going to pass things over to my players so that they can introduce themselves, say where you may be able to find them on the internet, anything that they might have going on, etc., etc. And then I think we're going to get started with some Dungeons and Dragons. So first, to kick things off, whatever, but not to tit things off. That's a different game. We're going to start with Kenya.
Over here ticking things off. Yeah, hi everybody, Kenya. It's your sin on the interwebs. My channel will be linked down below. I do D&D on Sundays and that's it. But anyways, I am playing Vera. Insert really long name. No, I'm just kidding. Vera Marion Wynn Messinero, who is the madam of the city's high-end brothel. And yeah, we had some interesting things happen. She's a little terrified about the whole going to murder the vampires thing, because last time we acted with the vampires, she was in a bloody mess on a table. So we're gonna hope it ends better this time. And on that note, I'm going to toss it right down there to Matt.
I'm going to introduce myself, maybe on.
I'm so
Hello,
sorry.
everyone. That's all good. I'm Matt. I run a channel called A Fistful of Dice, and I make books over at Absolute Tabletop. And tonight, as always, I'm going to be playing Loxley LaCroix. And I finally... Where is he? He's over here. I have no fucking idea. Hang on. He's over here. I'm behind him now. I have art of Lox up on the screen now, finally. I had this commissioned a long time ago. So, yeah, really excited to get into some vampire shenanigans this evening. So thank you. I'm going to toss it over to M.
Hi everyone, I'm Em, Dice on Ice on the interwebs. You can usually find me on Mini Terrain Domain twice a week, soon to be 3 times, is not a week, but we're starting up a new Call of Cthulhu campaign potentially, which is going to be very exciting. But tonight I will be playing Sylvie Levine, and I am so excited to kick some vampire butt. So with that, I will pass it over to Austin.
Thank you. I am Austin. I will be playing Guillaume. I never have anything to plug, except I guess finishing up a Clue fiasco, or a roaring 50s, 40s. I don't. It's been a while, but gonna be closing that up on Friday on Jeremy's channel. But other than that, this is the only game I play in and the only thing I do on the internet. So super excited to get back into this as always. Tonight's going to be either amazing or the worst idea we've ever had. And I don't know how much in between there can be for our characters. So we'll see. Hope if there's a death spiral, it's on the other side. So and with that, I'll pass it off to Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen, also known as Myth and Gears on the socials, except that I'm not very active. Because, you know, I don't like people. And I don't like vampires because I've heard they're a pain in the neck. So we're going to go fight them. That reaction was everything I needed. Thank you, Jeremy. Tonight I get to play Chimeran Diego Ruiz Gonzala, or also known as Lana de Corgonas, also known as Isabella Anscari. And that is just what we know.
So, anybody who mentioned a channel, you should be able to find it in the description of this video. If it's not there, please just shout at me in the comments. I will make sure to fix that. Yeah, I'm really, really stoked. So I think, without further ado, we can go ahead and get started. Let's do this. There are those who say that you can never go home again. At face value, this seems preposterous. The people and the places you remember so fondly do not simply vanish. The streets are arranged in the same pattern as they always have been. The smell of flowers in the springtime and of falling leaves in the autumn still usher in the shift of the seasons. The reason that you can never go home is not because the place you remember has changed. No. It is because of how much you have changed since you left. Your experiences have forever altered the way that you see the world around you. And that most certainly includes the places you have already been. We begin our chapter in the same place where we have each chapter previously, still in the city of Aledalgo. The myriad of canals that bisect the multitude of districts of this island city set amid this lake. But we know, as we rejoin the five of you, that we are leaving the city behind, at least for a time. We can see that you're gathering your supplies, once again going to be riding the ferry from the city to the shoreline, where you will then depart into the countryside of Gerdes. But before we see this departure, I think there is a last-minute visit that is happening. So, Karen, where are you? What's going on?
So we see Isabella sitting at the dressing table in her room, and we can see she has not yet, she probably hasn't slept very well. She looks a little tired, and she is staring down at this snuff box, if you will, that has these two locks of hair in it, and she's just staring at it, and then all of a sudden she just closes it up, grabs it, puts on an overrobe, and kind of runs out the door. And she kind of runs down the hall and through corridors, however far, and arrives at this other door. And she's immediately she doesn't even really knock. She just kind of bursts into the door saying, Vitor! And with all the, I guess, privilege and audacity that one who is just used to having everything their way. No thought to the person who might actually be inside at this early morning hour, as so well.
I think Vitor, knowing that you were going to be leaving the city, has already been up and has been, arranging whatever it is that you need for at least the first part of your journey. But he is still caught by surprise as you kind of like burst through the threshold of his room. Seated at his desk near the open window, he kind of starts and knocks over the ink pot that he is using onto the piece of paper that he has been writing on, which spills the ink across the page. Damn it! He very quickly kind of picks it up and like tries to scoop up the paper and pour as much of the ink back into the inkwell as he can. What is it? What do you need?
One thing that's been bothering me all night, and he didn't send you?
What are you talking about? Did who send me?
My brother. He didn't send you.
What? No. He kind of shakes his head. I thought I made that perfectly clear last night.
But he didn't. He didn't.
Why would
Does he
Juan
even
have
know?
sent me?
Well, I just thought, I mean, you were his favorite, and why else would you be here? I mean, does he even know?
I have no idea. What Juan knows and what he doesn't is not really of my concern. I told you why I chose to come. Isabel, I told you why. Just last night. Have you already forgotten?
Vitor, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean,
It doesn't make...
if he didn't send you, and you're here, is he going to be so mad with me? Oh no. And I think she just kind of turns and leaves the room.
He kind of stares after you, dumbfounded, kind of still holding this piece of parchment, like somewhat like bent into a U, hovering over the inkwell. The creases in his forehead kind of just staring after you. He shakes his head. Impossible. And he goes back to what he was doing.
Okay. Yeah, Isabel would have just left and in her frenzied state would have gone back to the room and tried to pull herself back together and into Chimaran, which is how we see him next.
So when we next see Chimaran, I imagine it's probably while he is joining the expedition, if you will, that is preparing to board this ferry to leave the city of Aladalgo. As we see the rest of your party, those that we might expect, there are also 4 individuals that we, as an audience, have not yet met. This is a group that was sent to travel with you by Armand, the Saint of Rats. All of you would know that they are were-rats as well. These 4 individuals look like they probably have a collection of different strengths and weaknesses, much like your group. Starting from left to right, we have Dariste Fueran, we have Herosa de Supura, we have, and this is probably one of my favorite NPC names ever, Sabagio Corregesi, and the last we have is Valis de Lunicia. They are likewise bringing their gear, their things that they're going to need to make this journey, to board this dock as well. What are the five of you? What do we see the five of you doing as you're preparing to leave Aladango?
I think we see Chimeran helping out Sylvie as much as possible, packing up all the things and tools that she usually takes with her anywhere she goes, and making sure that those are all stowed for her properly.
Yeah, you see Sylvie's, I imagine they're at her shop, and she is busying herself getting everything packed up, and she does kind of mutter, she's like, of all the times for us to be needing to go after some kind of secret vampire conspiracy, it has to be the time that I have the most business. And she's like,
Are you taking it all with you?
no.
As I'm sure, like, he's like being loaded down with another load of fabric and this thing and this thing, and he's...
No, but I mean, you cannot expect me to be totally empty-handed in a place that I don't know. I mean, business is business. There might be some business to come up.
Right, and it is a long journey. Not that long. I think as he's starting to struggle with all the things you're putting on top.
Yeah, and she just like, you don't think it'll be cold, do you? She's like, I'll just grab a few more things.
All of a sudden, like 3 robes. Like, no. Okay, what actual season is it right now? Are we talking? Is it
So it's
spring?
Mardival is still in full swing, so it's springtime.
Spring. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So heading into the warmer part of the year.
Yeah, nights can still get cold, I guess.
You are traveling to the mountains, so it's good to be prepared, I suppose. One of the contingency of the were-rats who are joining you, a woman by the name of Valis de Luencia, she approaches Locks. She approaches you. She has a crate that she is carrying, a wooden box. It's not ornate, but it's not simple. It's not rudimentary. It's just a nicely well-made wooden crate that she brings and kind of like almost thrusts into your chest. And she says, "These are the potions of healing and the bottles of holy water that our friend has donated to the cause."
Locks would give sort of like a as the crate is pushed into his chest, and it's heavier than he was anticipating, sort of forgetting that like where rats are naturally stronger as they're hefting these boxes around. And he sort of hefts it and says, "Oh, right. Yeah, very good. Locks."
It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Valis.
Appreciate you and your comrades here coming with us. Can use all the extra swords we can get.
Well, this is what the priest said. Hopefully it is not as dire as he made it out to be. She kind of gives like a weak smile.
Lox kind of half-heartedly returns the smile. It's certainly not the best situation I've ever found myself in, but it's probably the worst situation I've ever found myself in. But
she nods.
We've managed to scrape by thus far, and we didn't have nearly the number of people behind us, so we'll be all right.
Well, I suppose we will see what we are all made of in time. Okay.
I think before the ferry left, like Guillaume doesn't own a lot now, and everything he does own, he pretty much carries in his pack at all times at this point because he doesn't have anywhere to put it. But he when they retrieved the horses, he retrieved his horse, no longer wearing its fancy barding and with a much simpler saddle. But he's just spending time with his horse, kind of grooming it, and like, it's been a while that he's been unable to return and really spend time with, he has a horse, and he's been like missing his dog, but they're just like, the dog was in the house, so he hasn't seen him, and the horse has been in the horse house, so he's just doing what he can to kind of rekindle their relationship, because it was his horsey.
I think before she kind of heads to the docks and stuff, Vera would have written a couple of letters, and she would have given them, she would have approached the Contessa with them and holding them out kind of down in front of her a little bit. She would approach her and, Contessa, I'm wondering if I can ask you a favor.
Yes, dear, of course. What is it?
I have these letters here. This one here, it's for it's for Gabriella, one of the girls that works at the Castillo, and I'm wondering if you could have it delivered to her if we don't return.
Certainly. Is there a time that you would like for me to wait before sending it?
I'm going to say perhaps, I don't know, if we're not back in a week, we're probably dead.
Listen, Vera. She kind of like places her skeletal hands, rings, and bracelets and all, kind of on yours.
Mm-hmm.
What you are attempting is daring and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time that you have faced such a challenge, no doubt. However, the difference this time is that you are choosing where the fight takes place. And sometimes that can make all of the difference in the world.
That is oddly comforting, considering it is a motto that I run my entire life in business by. I always choose the place. So I always have the advantage.
And just as you show courage and confidence in your everyday work, and dare I say with your friend, the Gesticaro, you should take that confidence forward with you now. Share it with your friends. They will need it.
Very well. Then just between you and I, wait a week. The other letter is for said Justicaro. If you could deliver that to her too.
Good. And I certainly will. After a week. Which I expect to see you before.
I expect to be seen. And probably at some point blindingly drunk afterwards.
Probably not a bad follow-up plan. She kind of like pats the back of your hand.
Well, perhaps I should go chase down Guillaume and make sure he's getting ready, because he's probably off wandering around doing something to delay us.
She nods, kind of like these massive earrings on either side of her head jingling. She kind of turns to walk away and she says, hopefully he is not committing yet another murder. She kind of laughs.
Just hoping. His list is getting quite long. She kind of walks off in the other direction and says that over her shoulder.
Perfect reaction, Austin. 10-10. Okay. So, all aboard. You get onto the ferry boat and are able to traverse the distance you've already covered at least once before by boat to the shoreline, the kind of the berth port of this ferry, if you will. Disembark. Do all of you have horses, or is it just, I think all of you do. I think we covered this. Bless you. Can you? Okay.
I'm
Cool.
assuming we took enough from my rich father to.
Yeah, I think that's where
Yeah,
I think that's where the horse house comes from. I think that's what it was.
Might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we all, because we're planning on having to get to the other side of the lake and then riding for a
Mhm.
bit. So yeah.
Okay. So you disembark with your horses, you mount up, and you set out into the Gerdessi countryside, heading mostly west with quite a bit of south kind of added on. As you journey on for the better part of the day, it's easy to find the road that eventually leads to Manchalona, though you know that the journey will take several days to complete. The road is well maintained, and before long you find yourselves amid the growing elevation of the Gerdessi hill country. You can see that the springtime has brought immeasurable wildflowers into bloom. So everywhere that you look, these increasingly larger hillocks are covered with carpets of color, and you see these telltale windmills everywhere in Gerdes. On almost every open space or hilltop that you begin to pass, you can see these things just slowly turning in this natural resource of wind.
You know,
What?
for a suicide march, I have to say, folks, this is pretty pleasant. Just calling it out.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I would like each one of you, if you would please, describe to me something that you see or experience while you are out amongst this beautiful country that might, in fact, be somewhat antithematic to what you know probably awaits you at the end of this journey.
I think looking at all the different colors and all the wildflowers that are everywhere, Sylvie is taking, like picking some of these until she has a little bit of a bouquet of these wild flowers. She's admiring like the different combinations of colors and thinking about how she can weave this into her clothing designs. And I think she would even take a few of the flowers and put them in her little drawing book that she has and close it in order to preserve them. And I imagine that maybe Guillaume says that and she hesitates for a moment, like she had kind of lost herself in this of, you know, thinking about, I'm going to do this and I'm going to design this when I come back, and then that stark realization of there might not be a back, but she still keeps those flowers inside of the book. And I think she would even put some just but like tuck behind her ear as well, so that she can kind of smell them every so often.
I think at one point we're passing some rural estate, and we hear the laughter of some children playing, and we can see them running through maybe an orchard playing hide and seek or tag or some sort of game, and the sound is so cheerful, so delightful, and there's such joy coming from these children. And we can see Chimeran just looking at them, and there is such a sadness that is on his face as he is watching these children play.
I think Lox is kind of riding along beside like this river that kind of creeps along this countryside, and he's just watching this river flow, and he's reminded of this time when he was young, very young. It's kind of one of these like fleeting sort of memories, and it involves his father, and it's such a fleeting, vague memory that he can't even readily recall his father's face. There's kind of this vague sort of figure that is his father in this memory, and he remembers his father saying almost to himself, sort of wistfully, as the two of them like sat by a river throwing stones into it, that he said, "Sometimes I wish I could be a river." And Lox remembers telling his father, "That's silly. A person can't be a river." And Lox is kind of sitting there in the saddle watching this river just kind of pleasantly babble. And he just sort of says under his breath, "I wish I could be a river too, Dad." And he sort of like kicks the horse and keeps trotting on.
I think at some point during our travels, we have to stop kind of maybe and, eat a little bit of food, kind of get off the horses, stretch for a little bit. And the area that we stop in, there's a kind of a grouping of trees, maybe off the road a little bit. And there's this one tree in particular, it's the largest out of the group, and Vera's pretty quiet while everyone eats and stuff. And after a few minutes, she's looking around and she sees this, and she gets up from where everyone's sitting, and she kind of wanders over, and she just stops and stares up at this tree and watches the wind kind of blow through the leaves. And she reaches down to her skirts and she kind of lifts the one side up fairly high and slides her pan flute out from underneath the skirt where she keeps it. And she begins to play this kind of like very like sorrowful and kind of sad song. And she stands there for a few minutes as she's playing before she takes the pan flute and tucks it away and reaches up to her chest where the giant amulet that used to belong to her mother is kind of tucked away, and she puts her hands over it as she continues to look at the tree, and she just she shakes her head, and as she's walking back to the group, she kind of whispers to herself, I wonder what would have been had I made it home with you. And then she gets back over to the group and just sits down and starts picking at some food again.
At some point, we're passing through kind of a thicket of trees with a small meadow, and the horses stop to graze for a few minutes, and I'm just imagining just a small like family of little bunnies come out to kind of investigate because it's this quiet rural lane and they're not that threatened. It seems like a place not too traveled, almost a shortcut. And as the horses are leaning down to nibble the grass, like one of the rabbits just comes up and just kind of like sniffs right at the horse's nose, and they do that thing that animals do where they both kind of like acknowledge each other for a second and like sniff and then kind of like give the little head bow. And then we just kind of pick up and continue on, and the rabbits kind of watch curiously as we saunter away.
You continue on traveling this way, and you may be kind of lost in some thoughts here and there. But the travel itself is fairly benign and tranquil. The countryside is a lot more serene than the constant bustle of the city. So much so that probably for the first several hours of travel, it takes you a little bit to get used to the slower pace of life here, the lack of abundant noise everywhere, the lack of other people everywhere. But you find yourself very quickly kind of finding a peace, even if just a little bit. And the rest of the day passes uneventfully. You're able to find a comfortable place to camp out under the stars. Those of you who may have tents, maybe not under the stars, but out here beside the road, camping in a field of wildflowers. And unless there's anything that anybody wants to say or do overnight, the night will also pass uneventfully, and you'll find yourselves back on the road again the next day. And I think that is probably when the second day of being alone with your thoughts as you kind of ride, that Lox, you start to realize that you are picking out landmarks that you recognize along this road. What is going through Lox's mind as you're seeing these reminders, these landmarks again? And how long has it been since you have passed this way?
It's probably been like months, if not years at this point, since he has last been in this area. And everyone would probably notice that Locke seems very at ease on the road. He's like very comfortable in the saddle, very comfortable. Like he just like beds down, no problem. He likes being outside. He obviously is like kind of relieved to like be out in the countryside roving around. But as the trip kind of goes on and he starts picking out these landmarks and these spots that he knows, there's kind of this like nervous energy about him, and he seems a little more on edge. He kind of is like, every time there's like an outcropping of rock or like a little grove of trees or like a little hillock, he's like kind of like cantering in front, like, and kind of like almost like scouting things out, sort of like looking around corners and things like that, and just seems very wary as the trip kind of wears on.
Has anybody in this company, has anybody noticed the change in Lox's behavior? And if so, is anything being said?
I think Vera would probably notice just because people is what she does. So, haha, but got myself with that one. Sorry.
That people is what she does.
Unintentional puns are
I know,
sometimes
right?
the best.
Um,
Especially unintentional dirty puns.
I know. At some point, she probably would kind of kick her horse up a little, and maybe as Lox is heading off to do one of his little scouts, she'd just settle up next to him and, are you expecting trouble?
What? Trouble.
You're
He would start to like say, no, why? And then he sort of like, I know there are bandits in this area. Territory's kind of rife with them. I'm just keeping an eye out. I'd rather we don't get stabbed in the back or robbed on the way to deal with the actual problem.
Yes, that would be preferable. You're just, you don't seem only cautious, but you also seem uncomfortable.
I'm just first and foremost hoping to not run into any bandits.
Yeah, we covered
Secondly,
bandits.
hoping to not run into any bandits that I know
Ah,
and may have previously worked with.
and if we do run into anyone that you know, would it be a good meeting or a bad meeting?
Thus my caution.
I will leave you to your scouting then. I just wanted to make sure you were okay.
I appreciate it.
She'll kind of lean over on the horse and maybe reach out and give his knee a pat before she kind of slows it down and lets him lead the group again.
And he kind of like looks warmly after Vera and then immediately is just like back to like scanning the horizon.
Guillaume was like riding like right behind them and just listening to all of that fairly shamelessly. And he's going to ride up alongside Lox and say, all right, here's what I'm thinking. You take the lead if we do run into any of them. And if it seems like it's about to turn unfriendly and we need to become unfriendly very quickly, try to slip the word endeavor into the conversation. I'll be listening and I'll use that as a cue.
Endeavor.
It could be a different word. We just need to decide on it now.
No, endeavor's great. It's not a word that I would normally choose, so I'm not going to accidentally say endeavor. it might be hard to come up with a way to work Endeavor into the conversation. It's fine. I'll figure it out.
All right. Well, Endeavor, everybody. If he says that and we run into anybody, that means attack.
Is it just him saying it that's what it means?
I mean, I suppose it could be anyone, but I think if it's people he knows, we'd rather that it was like he's him making the call. I don't know what the situation's going to be like.
So what if one of us sees somebody that could be something?
I mean, I would just say, hey, I see someone. I think the Endeavor thing is more for like, if we're already in conversation with these people, we are able to approach them peacefully, but it's about to become unpeaceful. It was an idea. I don't know. Okay. We're lingering anyway. And he'll just kind of like drop back in the line and let Locks get back to his scouting.
I think Sylvie's gonna go up by Chimaran. Do you think he stays up at night thinking about plans like this?
The plans he comes up with, I can't imagine anyone staying up to think of them.
Mira would kind of slip in next to him. If these are the plans he comes up with after thinking, we should never allow him to do anything on a whim.
I like to think that he has everything, every situation planned out. He has a book or something in his head that he just knows. He goes through his Rolodex of situations.
Just spins it to B for bandit. There's all these options.
Use word Endeavor.
Like bandit, C rapscallion. Damn it. And he's having to flip back through.
Who wrote this? Watsy?
Shit, it was me.
But to go on to your thoughts, Vera, I actually think, if I'm terribly honest, that the plans he comes up with at a whim tend to be better than the ones he's tried to think out.
I actually think you might be onto something there.
So we just have to stop him thinking.
That's what we have to do.
I think we cut to a shot
thinking
of Guillaume riding along, perfectly pleased with himself, like basking in the sun.
Yeah, he's got a smile that just says, I just had a great idea, and yes. Everybody loved it.
That's going into the Rolodex.
Amazing. Okay. You continue to ride along. Locks, you entering deeper into familiar territory. Eventually, realizing that you have now entered the marches of Alta Vinanya, an area that is still quite a ways off from Manchalona, but is kind of a march, not a barony, but a march, all of its own. And this particular area is probably where your hackles are on end the most. This is definitely familiar territory to you. And it's on one of your pushes out that you see something on the side of the road. And from your vantage point, it's kind of hard to see. It definitely is in kind of a copse of trees. So the light is very kind of dappled and shadowed underneath there, but you're fairly certain that it is a carriage that is mostly on its side and looks pretty banged up.
I'm going to like pull back on the reins, get my horse like stopped in the middle of the road. And I just want to take a second and just like watch, just like as still and silent as possible. I want to watch this sort of like this carriage and the surroundings around the carriage, and just like watch for movement. And specifically, I want to look for like any telltale signs that this is a trap. I want to look in the trees to see if there are shapes moving in the trees. I want to be on the lookout for like bowmen on the ridge. Like I'm just looking for my usual, like, okay, I'm going through my Rolodex. Like, what did we usually do here? Keeping an eye out for anything like that before I call out to anyone or do anything else.
Right. Okay. So go ahead and roll me perception. Are you trying to make this observation from this distance, or are you planning on trying to get closer before you really scout things out?
I want to stop right where I am.
Okay.
And
so
see
this
what I can see from here.
perception check will be at disadvantage then.
Disadvantage. Okay, great. Rolling physical dice tonight for the first time in a while. So that's a 9 on the die. My perception is not great. So that is a 8.
Okay. So you kind of have moved off of the road just a little, kind of behind like some overgrowth or undergrowth here, so that just in case there is anybody there that is on lookout, they won't readily see you.
Right.
And you're trying to keep an eye on things, but it is still at some great distance. And again, the dappled light plays tricks on your eyes on your eye at this distance. And you watch, and even though you watch and you kind of scout the typical places, every time you think you see movement, you're pretty sure it's just the wind blowing through the trees, changing the shadows on things. Right. You don't think you actually see anything moving.
Being that Lox is on edge and we've stopped, can Chimaeran kind of have his back and do a look? I don't even know what Lox is looking for because I don't know that history, but I would be looking for things out of the ordinary. I see you said a carriage turned over, so I'm looking for traps. I'm coming from the other side, like having been in carriages and being on the road, and the things that we've always heard about ambushes. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, so you likewise can make a perception roll. It will be at disadvantage from this distance.
Huh, that's a 3 on the die. So
Ooh.
we're doing real well. Total of 11.
Okay. Wow. So even
you rolled
though
3 and you still just like trounced me
right.
on the check.
Double digits from a 3.
Lox is like looking at the ground. He's just like, huh?
Chimaeran, you kind
your
of
back.
move up beside Lox, and you kind of craning yourself in the saddle, trying to see what it is that he's looking so intently at. And you spot what you're fairly certain is what he's studying. It's an overturned carriage, off to just on the side of the road. And you look, and you don't see anything else about the situation that strikes you as amiss.
I kind of just whisper that to Lox. I'm like, it doesn't look like a trap. I don't see anything.
I don't either, but let's move real careful and keep our distance from that wagon.
Yeah. This area, is there some cover potentially on the way towards the carriage?
So, some. There are trees that are scattered through here. It's not a full-blown forest. It's still mostly like hillocks that are covered with tall grasses and wildflowers. So if you dismounted from your horse and crouched, you could probably have pretty decent coverage making your way there. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of like making your way from like stand of trees to stand of trees off of the road, if you want to try to stay covered.
I think when Lox mentions like going ahead carefully, Chimaeran would just turn to him and say, take my horse. I'll circle around. Come from the other direction.
Okay, but just be careful and keep an ear out.
Always.
If it's what I think it is, they've likely powdered their weapons. You won't be able to see the glint of metal. So just listen.
Yeah, he takes those words of warning, and then will get off his horse. And I'd like to kind of stealth around. Like if they're going back down the road, then go off-road and around, trying to get it from a different direction.
Are you approaching on the carriage side of the road or the other side of the road from the carriage?
Other side of the carriage, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in my
Like,
mind,
is the
it's on
road
the right side of the road. So you're going to go on the left.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you had another question?
No, I was going to ask which
No?
side of the road was
Okay,
the carriage was on. Yeah.
Perfect.
As Chimeran like starts creeping off, he'd feel a little like motion up his back as Guillaume in rat form will scatter up onto his shoulder. And just give him like a little.
Okay. So Chimeran, yeah, if you'll give me a stealth roll, and then Guillaume is going with
24.
4. Excellent. Okay. So Chimeran, you hop down out of the saddle and you crouch down and you find that your small half-elven stature is perfect for this kind of environment, for staying hidden here. The grasses here are tall enough that they might not hide someone Lox's size as easily. But because you're somewhat smaller framed and lithe, you're able to crouch down low enough and still move quick enough that you're more or less able to keep pace with them making progress on the road. You very quickly start to make your way through the grasses. Okay, so what I would like from Chimeran is actually let's do perception checks from everyone. These will not be at disadvantage. These will be just straight rolls.
I got a 20, baby.
Okay. Oh no, Gil.
So that's 19.
Oh no. Yep. Okay. So we got two
Lox
19s.
just went, there's that 4-leaf clover, and he picks it up off the ground and looks up.
He got
Okay.
it because it fell out of Guillaume's pocket.
There's an ant down there.
Okay, so both Chimeran and Lox got 19s. 2 15s in the group as well, and then Guillaume got a 1.
I'm in Chimeran's pocket
True.
for this travel, so I'm just
You
like
see grass.
I smell whatever was like last in Chimeran's pocket most of all, probably like some perfume or cologne.
You probably have run up against the snuff box.
Oh yeah.
Pocketed.
Oh god.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I was like sniffing around in there and just got like a face full, so I'm just like
Perfect.
this little beady rat eyes blinking like, oh god.
So Sylvie and Vera, both of you notice as you start to ride closer that Lox is very much on edge. As are the were-rat companions that are kind of traveling with you. They kind of have their hands, one hand on the reins of their horse and the other like on the hilt of their weapons. And they're very much kind of like, pivoting their heads back and forth, trying to keep an eye on everything. The two of you notice a small bird that flies down from the trees somewhere and lands on one of the wheels of the carriage and just kind of stays there for several long moments until some, random natural noise causes it to take flight and fly away. Lox, you notice this bird as well, but for you, what this signifies is that if in fact this is a trap, that whoever is laying in wait has been here for long enough that that bird has paid them no attention, was comfortable enough to light upon this carriage and then take off. So you feel a little bit of a sense of relief, that this doesn't look like it might be a trap. However, you also spot several bodies scattered around off of the road in various places in the tall grass, not moving. Chimeran, as you are sneaking up, you come across a path that has been trampled through the tall grass and the flowers, kind of perpendicular to the path that you're now cutting. So it kind of cuts across your path, and it is coated with blood that is still somewhere in like mid coagulation. So it's pretty fresh, and there's a lot of it.
The blood is on the trail?
Yeah, so there's like trampled grasses and flowers, and there's blood like smeared on them.
Okay. Does it look like the smears are going away from the carriage or towards the carriage?
With a 19, I would say that you understand that the blood trail seems to lead away from the road and the carriage.
I think under Chimeran's breath, in a very, very, very quiet whisper, probably just loud enough so rat ears could hear. Endeavor, endeavor, endeavor. I don't know if you heard that. Endeavor.
Does Guillaume respond to the safe word?
I think honestly, he just rolled a nat 1 on perception. I kind of feel like he's like
It's just
fully
lost.
like tweaking from like his tiny rat body was not able to process the amount of tobacco that he just accidentally inhaled in the stuff box, and like he's barely there right now for the moment. And I think he's going to like he will kind of hearing the voice just like pop his head out and like look around, but again just seeing like grass, not really know what to do with himself, and he just seems like he's just kind of like twisting around in your pocket.
Wonderful. I think Chimera will say it a couple more times. Endeavor, endeavor, before, being quiet, and maybe we're going to go down, I guess, down the trail, but not on the trail with all the blood smears, but off of
Following
it,
it
kind of
away?
following it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, following it back to the people.
Towards
Just
the
kind of let
carriage.
them, yeah,
Okay.
let them know.
You turn along the trail and start kind of making more of a direct path back towards the road, following just off of kind of this bloody smear that kind of travels through the grass. As the rest of you kind of slowly approach the carriage via the road, the rest of you start to see the same thing that Locke's already noticed. There are several bodies that are kind of scattered everywhere. You see what look like potentially armed or like hired guards, as well as what look like footmen, very well dressed individuals, and they're torn up. There's a lot of blood around here. this rosewood carriage is toppled over onto its side. One of the wheels is completely shattered and broken. Where the horses were, the tack is broken, torn apart. It's hard to tell if they like wrenched themselves free and escaped or what, but there's a mess all around this area. Chimeran, as you're kind of following this trail back towards the road, you see more than blood here and there. You see bits, pieces of viscera, kind of not haphazardly, but as if like it just fell where it lays and just, you know, has just been left there. Without getting your hands dirty, it's going to be hard to inspect it closer.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking like clumps of viscera, I think we're not going to look at it any further at this moment. Yeah, if it's not recognizable like what it is from a glance, we're just gonna like put it in our brain and keep going towards the rest of the party.
Okay. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Guillaume will hop out of your pocket at this point, and he like next to this like pile of viscera, like he's just kind of like running in little circles, and he's just like and just like squeaking madly until he finally like shifts back into his human shape. It's, what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh, you're muted.
I am muted, which is what I was trying to do to Guillaume.
So quiet.
I think his immediate reaction as soon as Guillaume like starts to talk is to like slap a hand across his mouth, just and the finger up, just like.
Okay. What the fuck? This is crazy. What?
I was trying to tell you that.
Hey, be quiet.
Endeavor.
I'm supposed to be sneaking.
Chimeran just like.
I want to like, I just want to like check any of the nearby bodies, see if anybody is still alive or if they are all just completely ripped up.
Okay. So yeah, the group is probably, we're gonna say probably 30 feet, give or take, from the carriage itself on the road. By the time that Chimeran reaches the side of the road, where this trail of blood, well, it doesn't end at the side of the road. It's just the grass ends at the side of the road. The blood continues towards the carriage. But you are able to move all the way to the side of the road, Chimeran, where you see, you know, them approaching on horseback. Guillaume, hopping down from Chimeran's bag or shoulder or what have you, you scuttle. Oh no, you're not scuttling anymore. Sorry, you kind of move over to the nearest person that you see. Anything that you would expect on this footman to be of value, any jewelry, coin purse, any of that kind of stuff is certainly missing. But there's a lot of blood here for a robbery. And this individual is most certainly not alive.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Jeremy if at any point in my less than scrupulous years, if I ever saw anything like this. I mean, a carriage knocked over and like broken and like multiple people just like massacred. I kind of want to check and see if there's shit stolen or if there's still stuff like laying around that could be looted. I'm trying to make sense of this.
Okay. What I would like for anybody who is participating would be an investigation roll, please. I will go ahead and tell you, Matt, that Lox absolutely knows that whatever happened here, that this is not the highwayman's style. All right, 14, 17, 15. All right, some good rolls. Is that everybody who's partaking?
Disappointed.
Yeah, Chimeran is not actually at this moment trying to investigate any of the bodies. He's trying to get Lox's attention
Okay.
at some point, but yeah.
So let's handle that first, and then we'll get to the result of these rolls.
I think, yeah, he just wants to, once he gets Lox's attention, to let him know that there's this trail of carnage kind of leaving the carriage area. And he kind of points that direction.
Does Lox have a response to this new information from Chimeran?
Oh,
Or are you
yeah,
just gonna
yeah,
focus
Lox.
on?
Lox would sort of be preoccupied with the carriage, but he would nod to Chimeran and maybe even say to him, "I'm not sure what this is. This isn't a robbery.
This is a brutal attack. Brutal. I think at this point, Chimeran is probably going to turn and go back along the trail, like backtrack where he's already been, slowly, because he's going to let the people do what they're doing with around the carriage, but want to gather some more information about maybe how far away this, whatever it is, has gotten, because it is pretty fresh.
So you're going to follow the trail back the other direction into the grasses?
Yeah, but slowly, so that I'm not like too terribly far away
Okay.
from anybody.
So we'll get to that in just a moment. The rest of you, as you kind of begin to poke and prod around the scene, as it were, you notice a few things. Vera does not really pick up on much about this, other than just the sheer carnage of what has happened here. But even you can tell that this is likely not merely a robbery, or if it was, it went horribly wrong. Guillaume and so Guillaume, you recognize that on this carriage, and even on one or two of the nearby trees, that there are some fairly vicious claw marks. Pretty sizable claw marks. Some of the victims also bear these lethal looking slashes. Lox and Sylvie, both of you notice that there were loose coins that have been left behind in plain view on the road, not buried in the grass. So if this was a robbery, this was very sloppily done. And whoever did this did not get away with everything that they could have. Sylvie, you in particular see something that's really strange. You notice a silk cord that ends in a tassel hanging from the interior ceiling of the carriage. So it's kind of draped along the side of the inside. But the thing that catches your attention beyond just the fact that it's there is that it truncates directly into the ceiling of the carriage. It's not sewn in place. It's not attached with nails or rivets or anything. It just stops at the interior surface. And on the top, where the carriage like luggage rack would be, it doesn't come out the other side.
Sylvie is going to look at that. She's going to very carefully make her way over to the door of the carriage. And is going to...
kind of broken and twisted. So, yeah, very easy to gain access to the carriage if you'd like to.
Yeah, she wants to get a closer look at the top of where this cord is coming out. Does she see like some type of hole that it's coming out of?
So roll me an intelligence saving throw.
$11.
Okay. You reach up and you kind of mess with this cording just a little, and you don't see any form of hole or divot or around where this cord is. It doesn't look like there's any bit of this cord that's been like tucked in between layers. It looks like somebody stuck this cord directly to like the fabric wallpaper or whatever on the inside of this carriage and just left it there.
I think she would turn to Guillaume. Is Guillaume still a rat? No. Okay.
Back in
Sylvie would turn to Guillaume. You've been in lots of carriages, I would assume. Does this look like something that someone wealthy or something would have? It doesn't make any sense to me of why it would be there.
He'll kind of crawl down to the open door and like look in. Well, no, in my father's carriage, there was no mysterious. It was lovely, though. It had these velvet walls that had cushioned siding. It was, sorry, not relevant. And he'll just kind of reach out and he's just going to yank on the cord.
Okay, make me an intelligence saving throw, please.
Oh, no. Oh, double no.
Oh, God.
Well, okay. Hey, that's my best one. So that's going to be a 10 overall.
Okay.
It's a 3 on the die.
You grab a hold of this cord and you pull, and it has 0 give. Whatever they used to affix this in place, it's on there. But again, it's really strange. Like, looking at it, both you and Sylvie can see, like, strands of this rope individually enter the fabric of the interior of this carriage.
I'm going to go ahead and pull my little dagger out, and I'm just going to start cutting into the fabric around it. Just like kind of like I'll hold it taut and try to like cut into the fabric and just cut a little circle, see if I can see what it's attaching to under the fabric.
I love the image, of bodies everywhere, and Sylvie and Guillaume are just hyper fixated on this like cord.
This is not how you put a carriage together. I don't understand it.
Solving the big problems.
No, he's just like, a fabric is what I do. Why does this make no sense?
All right, Guillaume, you produce your dagger, and you move forward to investigate this closer. And that's where we're going to cut over to Chimeran in the grass. You're continuing to kind of creep forward, following this blood trail. And as you continue to follow, the blood gets less, but the viscera increases until there's, God, this is a terrible way to put this, but serving size pieces. And eventually you see a place where a large area of grasses and flowers have been trampled flat. and you find the horses that were pulling this carriage. All 4 of them have been torn apart in this clearing. They've been eaten. The belly and all of the soft parts are all gone. And this was not a gentle affair.
I will take this moment then to look at the carcasses more and the area around it, looking for what could have possibly have done this.
Okay. Make me a survival roll, if you would, please.
Oh, that's an 8.
Okay. 8 total?
8 total, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. It is difficult to tell what could have done this. Something big? Something with sharp teeth or claws? Hard to really tell. But I mean, it's to say it's a mess is an understatement. It's hard to kind of make heads or tails of what's going on, or manes and tails. What's going on? Sorry, horse people. I apologize.
I think Chimera would take a little bit of time just to, I guess, kind of verify and ensure that it's just horses here in this clearing and not X people.
Yeah, that much is probably pretty easy to tell. Most of it seems to be what would normally be on the inside of 4 horses. While Chimeran wrestles with an existential crisis, we cut back to where Guillaume has his dagger poised at the ready. You go to cut into the carriage ceiling, and you pierce into the fabric, and you hear a yelp.
Oh, I'll pull it back. Like, oh, sorry. Hello.
You don't hear a response.
What did you do?
I don't. He'll kind of look at the rope again. Like, what is this thing? And he's
The rope,
like,
all of a sudden, begins to shorten and gets pulled up through the carriage
I want to
ceiling.
grab. I want to try to grab onto it before it gets.
Yeah.
Okay, both of you make dexterity saving throws for me.
Oh, fuck yeah. 21.
Ooh, nat 20 for 20.
Damn. All right. So both of you, with lightning fast reflexes, reach out and grab a hold of this cord, and instantly, especially between the strength of the 2 of you combined, this cord goes taut, and you hear like the noise of effort, someone straining against this, kind of pulling, and then all of a sudden it goes slack. And when you pull, an extra 3-4 feet of rope comes out of the ceiling.
So this seems magical. Listen, excuse me, whoever's in the ceiling, or the rope person. Listen, we're not the people that did all the murdering here. We're potentially here to help you. So if you want to come out, can you come out of there? Are you stuck in the ceiling? Do you need help? Have you turned into a rope?
Don't be absurd. What is your name? Who are you?
It's Guillaume, but just because I couldn't quickly think of a fake name, but what we're just travelers. You seem to be in a spot of bother.
You
We'd
are
be
not
willing to help
brigands?
you. No, not brigands. Travelers. Trust me, everything of value seems to have already been taken from around here. So like, we're not here to hurt you. We just came upon this scene of, well, it's pretty fucked up out here. I don't know if you've been out here.
Language.
Sorry?
Language of the peasants.
Oh, it's pretty up. You know, actually, you can stay in there if you need to.
A hand comes out, bedecked in multiple rings, and like they are presenting their hand to be assisted.
Oh, Sylvie looks to Guillaume. She is totally off of this dude already. She's like,
Yeah, Guillaume will just look to Sylvie and say, I think I've made a huge mistake. And he will grasp the hand, but he's gonna grab it like by the wrist, like and undelicately, just kind of clap onto the wrist and sort of yank.
There's like a disgust noise that comes from this individual as you see emerge, climbing out of this rope trick hole, this extra dimensional space, kind of through this illusory barrier that was made to match the interior decor of the carriage. There is a regal looking woman who steps out. Though she very much wears the clothing and the trappings of Gerdessi nobility, you can tell by her complexion and her facial features and things that she is probably somewhat of descended from the Tyrnish people who live kind of on the other side of the mountains. And again, like as you travel further and further west, you get closer and closer to the border of the Tyrnan lands. And so it's not unusual at all to see someone who is of mixed heritage, here in this part of Gerdes. So she takes your hand, disgusted at the fact that you're so haughtily grabbing a hold of her wrist and yanking. She steps out of the hole and out of the carriage, kind of like straightening her clothes and brushing off the dust and the bits of like, or brushing at the bits of like dried blood that are kind of spattered on her garments. What has taken you so long to find me?
Excuse me? We
You
just
were sent
wandered
to
upon
find
this
me?
scene. I have no idea who you are, miss.
She kind of clucks her tongue. I am the Marquesa of this land. She kind of looks around again in disgust. My name is Marquesa de Mera Correador. Well, where will you take me?
Oh boy. We're sort of doing our own thing right now, passing through, kind of thought saving you.
You are now in the employ of the Marquesa. So,
No.
All right. Hey, what the fuck happened here? What
Yeah.
happened?
we found
here?
someone.
This lady was a rope, and now she's here, and she's making some demands.
She's making some demands. Okay, well, why don't you tell us what happened, and then we can talk.
I suppose I can explain it to you. We were set upon by bandits. They killed all of my men. She kind of gestures around. And they robbed me. Thankfully, because of the forward thinking, I hid myself away in my secret compartment. Until you came along.
Sylvie insight check this since we're kind of
Sure.
suspicious? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, yep, I'm right there.
16 for me.
13.
Okay. Vera, you're uncertain. This woman her attitude is pretty fucking thick. So it's kind of hard to cut through whatever bullshit she might be spinning. But Sylvie, maybe because you have quite a bit of experience with the aristocratic, society and their typical bullshit, you are fairly certain that she is aware that this was not merely bandits that did this, and that she is not revealing everything that she may or may not know.
Sylvie, all of a sudden you can see Sylvie kind of turns on and she just kind of, oh, I am so sorry to hear that. That must have been so absolutely dreadful for you. Here, you are in luck. I am a dressmaker, a tailor, and I can see here that as she begins to look down, she is going to try and see if she can see any kind of tear in a skirt, even if it's there or not. She just she's going to kind of, oh, I see your beautiful dress. You have ripped it. Here, let me fix it for you.
Yes.
Kind of busy.
She kind of looks at you, uncertain of, this kind of display out here in the middle of, this craziness, this carnage, but not really entirely certain that she wants to shoo you away. Because if in fact there are tears to her clothes, she would rather that, they were fixed. She says, it was horrible. It was the work of the highwayman, I have no doubt. He has returned.
Yeah. Oh, and who is this that you speak? And she's kneeling down and busying herself with trying to fix a part of this dress.
This wasn't the highwayman.
She clucks her tongue. One of you knows of this person and the other does not? But who are you to say that this is the work of the highwayman? I was robbed, no?
Your people were butchered. The highwayman doesn't rip people apart, knock over carriages.
And how do you know this?
I know, okay? This wasn't the highwayman.
I've never heard of a highwayman with claws either. And he'll kind of point to the trees and a few of the bodies.
Oh, it was dark when the attack happened. It is possible that they had some kind of beasts with them. They were monsters, after all.
Monsters.
Yes. Look what they have done. What else
Oh.
could it be other than monsters?
Hey, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Can I cast Detect Thoughts on her, please?
Certainly.
I would like to cast Detect Thoughts.
Does she get a saving throw?
She doesn't get a saving throw unless I decide I want to start digging into her
Deeper.
brain.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
just surface
Otherwise, I
thoughts.
get things she's thinking of, surface thoughts, emotional state, that kind of. You learn initial surface thoughts, what's most on their mind at the moment, and then if I decide to, I can push harder and go deeper.
Okay.
But bumped, like Vera do.
Okay, so surface thoughts. She is. It reminds you of someone playing a game similar to chess, very much kind of like contemplating carefully what next to say, what next to not say, how to maneuver their way and navigate their way through this conversation. And you get the impression that it is important to her that all of you believe that this was done by the highwaymen.
Okay. You know what? YOLO, right?
Yeah, push deeper.
Yeah, I'm gonna push deeper. I'm gonna go harder. I'm gonna push deeper.
Wisdom save?
Wisdom save, yes.
Okay. And what is your DC?
14.
Okay. So you attempt to probe.
Can I do something before you give me the result of it? I would like to use my unsettling words bardic inspiration advantage.
Okay, what does that do?
It allows me, she has to roll a d8 and then subtract the number from her saving throw on it.
Okay.
From the next saving throw it makes.
Woof. Okay.
So, yeah, so Vera's going to do that, and she's kind of watching all of this, and she's going to say, I mean, it seems rather troublesome that one such as yourself would be attacked by the highwaymen. You think he would know better. And she's kind of doing it in that very taunting kind of way to throw her off. And then roll the d8 off of her saving throw.
So she's blustering and she's making, denials and jukes in the conversation this way and that. And while you are probing into her thoughts and you push further, you start realizing that she's definitely on the back foot. She's not holding it together well in this conversation and is very quickly kind of losing control of where the conversation's headed, and she knows it. But all of that is kind of invaded by these glimpses of what was happening last night. It was dark, so it was difficult to see exactly what was happening, but beyond any shadow of a doubt, these were creatures of tooth and claw. You see flashes of fur, you see flashes of like light reflected in animalistic eyes, you see gleaming teeth covered with blood, you see splayed hands that look almost like paws with talons, claws on the ends of their fingers. And this attack happened quickly and was a bloodbath. And this woman very quickly hid herself away and made absolutely no attempt at saving anyone. So cowardice is certainly a closely guarded feeling that she has kind of residing in her thoughts.
Okay, and to let's see, so to be, fair, either way, the target knows that you are probing its mind, and unless you shift your attention to another creature's thoughts, the creature can use its action on its turn to make an intelligence check contested by your intelligence check. If it succeeds, the spell ends. So.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and roll that intelligence check for me.
Oh my god, this is roll really well. Okay, I'll take it. A 16.
Okay. She tries desperately to push you out, and just barely fails to do so. So you're still able to to gather what's going on behind her eyes, if you will. However, outwardly, she has kind of shaken her head and kind of glares in Vera's direction. How dare you? Do you know who I am?
I don't really care right now. There's a pile of corpses around this place.
And you think that gives you the right to simply, what? Invade my mind?
She will. Hold on a second. Does she actually? Either way, it knows that you're an initiate. Okay. Vera just kind of looks at her and shrugs her shoulder. Well, you're lying.
She again clucks her tongue.
They all know it. You start commanding us like we're your servants, that we're someone sent to find you, yet you won't even do us the favor of telling us the truth, as we may or may not protect you. What, so we can be attacked by whatever's hunting you?
And might I add, last one standing, first one suspected. We have no proof that this wasn't your handiwork.
Me?
Vera kind of leans in. She was completely, and still is, scared out of her mind and hid away immediately.
This is absurd. I am tired of these questions. If you are not going to do your duty as people who live here in Gerdes, then so be it. I will return to my home and I will write a letter to the king.
Jeremy, do I know who this woman is? Can I do like a history check or like a...
Possibly. Yeah, you can do a history roll. Lox, you can as well if you want, and you can have advantage on it since you have spent some time in this region.
I roll just because I'm like
yeah, absolutely.
well read.
I want to use my real dice.
Wow, I actually have really good history. 23 is my total.
All right then.
I literally never rolled history in this campaign.
Got a nat 20.
Oh,
I got a 12. I don't think I studied too much about these like rural outlying regions. Who of interest lives there anyway?
right, exactly. They're the marches. That's the border, like,
They're just
holdings.
peasant nobles.
I'm interested in real history. Tell me what happened in a city where people live.
Both Vera and Lox, however, know that this woman, as she says, is the Marquesa. She is the wife of the Marqués Roneta Madeira Corregidor, who is, again, the Marquis of Alta Vinanya, the area that you're now currently in. The Marquis is purportedly very well liked. Most of his people seem to regard him pretty highly. His wife, not as much. She's definitely known for enjoying the life of luxury that comes from being a Marquesa. So the people tend to view her much the same as all of you seem to kind of have understood her to be. Kind of privileged and I just dropped the other word. Entitled. Vera, you got the nat 20?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. I'll do you one better because you got a nat 20 on it. You also know that that the Marquise, her husband, was killed about a year ago. No body has ever been found, but it was apparently a pretty gruesome crime scene. a lot of blood, and that she has since remarried, one of like the knights that formerly served the court. So a noble, but a lesser noble, somebody that didn't have a lot of prospects before marrying her.
What court?
The court of Alta Venania, this particular area.
Okay.
So, like, a knight that served her husband and her, apparently.
So Sylvie was trying to get like closer to her so that she could potentially look for any kind of like anything strange, anything maybe in a pocket, or like she doesn't want to like pickpocket her, but just wants to like try and see if she can notice anything while she has the guise of being this close to her.
Okay. Okay, so I know you said you're not pickpocketing her, but roll me a sleight of hand check. Uh-oh. Okay. So you are trying to be discreet about searching the folds of the dress or what have you, as you're kind of making this this play at addressing rips and tears, and you apparently pay too little of attention to what you're doing with your needle while you're doing this, and you end up jabbing her right in the back of the knee. And she screams and turns around and looks at you with, like, daggers. What are you doing? I thought you said you were a tailor.
You must have shifted. My apologies.
You're wielding a dagger just like these bandits.
She takes a step back. Good as new. She points at if she did find any rips, she would have cast mending on them to make them look perfect again.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there were some, but they were, minor. Again, she basically just climbed up into a hole. So she was safe from most of the real danger that took place.
So detect thoughts is up for a minute once, so Vera's probing for a minute. When she mentions writing a letter to the king, what is, like, does anything important go through her mind then? Does
Okay.
she...
Yeah. So mainly the thoughts are like petty revenge, vengeance, showing all of you your place. That kind of line of thinking seems to be the main focus of the intent behind her saying that she's going to write this letter to the king. However, there is a little, because you're probed deeper than just surface level, there is a small slip that happens with that. That is basically her reminding herself, or adding, as long as you don't tell him the truth.
I think once Vera kind of like recognizes the woman and it all kind of snaps into her brain who this is, she's going to kind of look at her and for a moment and she's going to say, okay, Sai, I think I knew your husband once. Well, she kind of looks at her. What's your current husband? Is her current husband like significantly younger since he was in service to the two of them, or is he?
Probably by a decade, maybe a decade and a half.
Mm-hmm. Um. Um. It was unfortunate what happened to him. I'm sure your mourning was quite extensive.
She kind of stumbles her reaction to this.
Mm-hmm.
She seems almost like frightened, called on the carpet, as it were, whenever you first begin this line of questioning. She very quickly kind of recovers and puts on an air again. She says, "Yes, it was very tragic."
I can understand. You must have been
Distraught.
so distraught that I'm sure your virile young husband has helped you heal those wounds.
Roderick is fulfilling a very important duty for all of Alta Venania.
Mm-hmm.
We needed a marquis, and he has rose to the occasion.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
She clicks her tongue again.
Well, who knows, maybe someday I'll be lucky enough to meet your other husband, too.
We do not keep such company, she says as she kind of like looks you up and down.
Maybe you don't, dear.
Excuse me, miss. Exactly what are you implying about my good friend here?
The way that all of you talk, I can only assume that you are from the lowest company.
Oh boy, is this what I used to be like?
Yes.
Yeah, you're like 30% of the time now.
Wow, being rich really does destroy you as a person. Well, you're insufferable and we've got things to do.
We do.
So, unless there's some
None of you are
useful,
willing to take
efficient
me
way-
back to my home.
Where do you live? How far is it? Which direction? We're going that way. Is it that way?
This direction. About a half day's worth of riding. Not too far.
Is that
Here.
the same direction we're going?
It is not. Very well. If all of you are willing to shirk your responsibilities, so be it. She
Well,
kind of
hold on,
reaches down
Liz.
to a coin purse at her belt. She looks to Guillaume.
I mean, we're not monsters. Just give us a minute amongst ourselves.
She kind of like
You-
raises her hand dismissively and turns around,
Ugh.
walks a short distance away.
Yeah, stand over there. I don't know. Like, she's clearly awful, but also I'd feel kind of bad leaving her out here. This doesn't seem like particularly safe country, both with the banditry and the clear animal attacks that seem to be happening, or whatever it is.
They're not
She is
animals.
lying.
Oh, she's definitely lying. This lady's full of shit.
Her husband died suspiciously a year ago, and she remarried a much younger man. But anyways, aside from that, but her husband was a really great guy. Anyways, here's the thing. I did exactly as she said I did, and I completely read her mind while she was talking to you guys, and she was attacked by monsters. Giant hands that looked like paws with claws on them, teeth covered in gore, just not animals, actual. I'm highly suspicious that this may be some other form of kind of monstrous creature like what you can now become. Guillaume, but it didn't seem that type. It didn't seem that type, right, Jeremy? Before I completely talk
No.
off the rails here.
No. They did not appear to be rats.
Rats. Okay. But not of the rat variety. I don't know. What she really doesn't want is she does not want us to talk to the king and tell the king what I saw and what happened here. Even though she threatened to write him a letter.
Okay, so that's some pretty good incentive for us to like go tell the king, because
And yes, exactly.
I don't know. I would feel kind of bad leaving this lady out here, as awful as she is. She's
awful. Everyone
she's really awful.
Dislikes her. And her husband disappeared suddenly. No body. No
Give
nothing.
us more time to find the truth.
To find the what?
What she is hiding.
She's, I mean, yeah. I guess.
I mean, we should know what we're up against here. I mean, it's not only vampires, but also she like gestures broadly to the gore. This is the kind of stuff that we should know so that there are no surprises when we do what we need to do. Otherwise, fuck her. I don't really care why she's doing what she's doing, but it matters to us.
Part of me wants to just give her one of Lox's extra daggers and send her down the road. And
I'm not doing this for any kindness to her.
Okay, so Guillaume, do you want to tell her that we're willing to accept her payment to be her escorts to her house then?
Sure. I was definitely going to say there needs to be some sort of compensation for this.
Significant payment. And there's how many of us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9. 1,000 gold.
I will make the request.
100 for each of us that are in the travels here. A little bonus so we can stay somewhere nice for the night.
All right, miss. I think we may have worked out some terms that will be agreeable to all.
Finally. Yes. What is it that you demand as your...
No demands are being made. I'm simply trying to negotiate an equitable exchange of goods and services.
Listen,
so
I am fully aware of how you people tend to operate. What is it that you wish?
Well, we're hoping that you could compensate each of our group approximately 200 gold. That would be about 2,000 gold overall. That's including a small bonus for the horses so that we can keep them fed and fully taken care of, shoed, as it were. This should be no great challenge for you. I know we've, you've said, like you've said, we know who you are.
Roll me a persuasion, Guillaume.
Ooh, okay. I don't have charisma. Like, I don't have a lot of it.
Can I as Vera, can I like kind of since I gave him the speech ahead of time about going to get the money, can I give him a bardic inspiration?
Sure. Or you can do a help action.
Can I do both?
Sure. Why not?
Okay.
You guys took long enough in your huddle. It's fine.
Take an inspiration, Guillaume.
What die type is that?
D8.
Okay. Oh, of course. That's the one die I can't find. Why is that? That's weird. Can somebody roll a D8 for me?
I got you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, Nate. That's a 26 then.
Okay. So you lay this out. She kind of rapidly bats her eyes a little in the obvious exorbitant cost that you have just kind of like levied But she smiles. 2,000 gold for him. Yes, I believe that is perfectly agreeable.
That worries me. Does she seem like she's genuinely agreeing to that, or is that I'm not gonna have to pay these people, I'm gonna fuck them over and like
You can roll an
have my
insight if you'd
guards
like.
kill them?
Yep. I've been saying that.
Oh shit. Bounced off. All right, come on. Ooh. Do I have any inspiration? No, I have no inspiration. That's an insight? That's a 7.
23.
Okay. 23. All right. Guillaume, you're seeing the medieval equivalent of dollar signs. You know, so you think, yeah, absolutely. You just secured a great payday.
I am so proud of myself for doubling what they
2
told me to
wins in a
ask
day.
for. Yeah, no, like I came up with a great plan and then I negotiated so much money for our group. I am
Guillaume's
the
on a
best.
roll. Of course, Vera, you don't bullshit a bullshitter. You get the impression that while she is likely willing to pay you this amount, you get the impression that she feels this price might ultimately be negotiable. One way or another.
Vera will kind of just look at her and make eye contact with her, and she'll kind of cross her arms, and the no bullshit a bullshitter type thing. She'll just look at her and she'll just like shake her head at her, like, don't even try, like giving her the very sound warning of, no, I know exactly what you're thinking.
She kind of, raises her eyebrows halfway up her forehead as if she has no idea what you're talking about. She says, so which one of you will be giving me your horse to ride? Guillaume, I imagine you probably have the finest horse.
Yeah, Guillaume will
he'll
walk over to his horse and
you.
pet it and say like, it's okay, girl. You're just it'll be okay. Yes, you can ride her. That's
you can ride on the back of Guillaume's.
She kind of walks up to your horse and kind of somewhat roughly like takes a hold of the side of the bridle and kind of like holds the horse's head up to kind of like look at her teeth and like kind of like she's inspecting your horse. And she again clicks her tongue. I suppose this will have to do.
Be real gentle with her. And like Guillaume will give her like a look that you guys have probably never seen on Guillaume before. That's like an actually like cold look. Like all the mirth is just out of his eyes for that moment. Like, be good to my horse. And he'll just kind of like let her ride, and he'll without even asking, he's just going to try to like hop up on Lox's horse and like snuggle up real close, like just like riding, and he's like holding him around the middle, like in a very awkward way. All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Lox gives your hand, like I imagine you like snake your hands around him. He like just gives your hands a little pat, just like, and like takes off.
So as you all mount up on your horses, in the company of this extremely ill-mannered noblewoman, you all ride on further down the road. I think this is where we're going to go ahead and take our break. We're going to take a 10-minute bio break, go to the bathroom, refill your drinks, kiss your spouse, smoke them if you got them, etc., etc. Yeah, and then we will come back and finish up the second part of what we have in store for session 21 of Evermore le Masquerade, The Road to Manchalona. Sit tight. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the second half of session number 21, The Road to Manchalona. We are back with some D&D 5th edition. Evermore le Masquerade is the name of the campaign. So, we have just met the wonderfully endearing Marquesa Corregidor, and she has won the party over with her charm and grace, and they are now in her company, riding back towards home for her, wherever that may be. However, we are going to...
Can I ask one question?
Sure, I would love that.
Sorry, before we kind of carry on.
Mhm.
After the carnage pit that was happening, was there any egress that where something that had a nice big belly left? Like, was there any direction that could have been pinpointed, or was it actually just like it was here and then they were gone?
So, it definitely seems like whatever hit the carriage left the trail or smear that kind of went towards where the clearing and the grasses were, where you found the horses' remains. From there, somehow, just, you know, how the sheer amount of chaos and carnage and whatnot, Chimeran lost any trail from that point. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what direction the creature or creatures left that spot from. Okay. So, as our heroes make their way escorting the Marquesa back towards her home, we are going to have a flashback scene. So, what we see is a countryside that is not dissimilar to the place where we just left our heroes. These rolling hillocks, these copses of trees scattered throughout, and this fairly well-maintained road that kind of winds its way this way and that through the rising elevation of land here. It is nighttime, early evening, and we see a group of individuals who are trying to remain unseen. Some might be on horseback, some are on foot, crouched between trees or in the tall grasses. For us, this group of individuals is unfamiliar, but what they're up to is probably not. Each one of them wears some form of hood or mask that is obscuring their identity intentionally. One individual who seems very much to kind of be the person in charge, wears it borders on a costume, much like you might see at a masquerade. He is an individual, it looks like, judging by his build, probably a human, that wears a custom-made cowl that covers the upper half of his face, and very much is bedecked in a theme. And anybody who knows of the history of this region can quickly identify this individual as the Highwayman. However, all of that being said, there is one individual who, though their appearance may be somewhat obscured, is still familiar to us. Matt, what does Lox look like at this stage of his life?
Oh shit. Okay. So I think that Lox at this point has so he's got this sort of mask over his face, but he still has the eye patch, but it's sort of this just simple leather eye patch. It's not the sort of intricate sort of brass patch that he has currently. And his head is like shorn. It's like super short hair on top of his head, not the sort of like flowing, swept back gray at the temples hair that he has now. And actually, he has like not clean shaven, but he doesn't have the little like Van Dyke and goatee. It's just sort of like stubble from not shaving for a few days. He definitely looks a few years younger and has a few less scars, and is a little slighter and slimmer in build.
And what does he currently go by? Does he go by Lox?
He goes by Jawbone.
Okay. So
because he is known to talk a lot.
Interesting. Okay. So where do we find Jawbone currently in relation to the Highwayman? What role in this scheme was it that Jawbone typically fulfilled?
I think that Lox would kind of would likely be one of the few people, if not one of the only people, who was capable of doing any sort of magic in the group. And so I think that anytime he was able to use any of his magic, even just simple cantrips like mage handing stuff, or he's capable of some other like more destructive spells, but also just his skill with a blade. I think that Lox would be a bit of a point man, like shock troop for the and like muscle for the Highwaymen.
Okay. So I imagine that you probably lead like the initial triggering of the attack. And the Highwayman comes in whenever it's time to intimidate the target, the mark, to press them for the goods. So there's, a series of hand signals or gestures or something that even over a fairly great distance that you can communicate simple ideas to one another. So you have kind of like set up in your position, probably nearer to the road, because you have spotted a mark that is coming. It is a stagecoach. It is a carriage that seems to be fairly well appointed. And you can tell by the way that it is riding, or your scouts were able to tell by the way that it is riding, that it is carrying a generous amount of weight. So you are kind of lying in wait, and the Highwayman with the second wave, if you will, is kind of waiting nearby for the initial assault. What I would like for the other four of you to do is please describe the brigand of this group that you will be playing for this flashback scene.
There's
No
this,
pressure.
there's this short, kind of live figure, human. It's hard to tell if they're like a young boy or a woman with her haircut. It's very hard to tell. It's very this person is kind of rough looking. Their hair is short and cut erratically. They're missing two fingers on their right hand, which doesn't seem to hinder them anyway when they pull an arrow back and get ready to notch it. They are definitely the artillery of the group. They're in the scuffy clothes, like the rest of them, just very road weary and hard, if you will. Known as Three Fingers is how her friends call her.
I think Archibald Pig Unger is a just a hulking hairless man with kind of shiny pink skin. He's not the smartest of the group, and his job, if the job goes perfectly well, his job is to carry the shit away, like physically carry the loot. But if shit doesn't go well, his job is to smash, which he does with a massive maul that he keeps on his back. He prefers the maul because then he can smash his way into chests rather than having to try to chop them up and accidentally cutting through the merchandise.
There's a very tall but almost gangly looking figure that's doesn't look to be paying much attention, though just from looking you can tell that they know what is everything that's happening around them, but they are in that kind of flat-footed crouch, idly stabbing at the ground, just kind of picking at it with one of their blades as they are hunched over. This is Blackbird, who is maybe one of the newer members, but is just kind of idly there, not really looking as if they're paying any attention to what's happening.
The final person that we see in this group is this elvish woman, and she's kind of average height for an elf, maybe a little short, and she has this blonde hair that's flipped over to one side, and then her hair is kind of shaved all along the side of her head. And she's wearing these very kind of loose and billowy pants, and she has this kind of thick strapped tank top on, and like some arm wrappings going up her arm, and she's the only thing that she has on her that's a weapon or seems to be some sort of weapon is she has this long piece of like very thick and finely made, very kind of strong looking rope that's wrapped around her almost like a sash, and on the ends of it there are some hooks that are hooked together that hold it together, and she's kind of sitting there in the ground, kind of crisscross applesauced with her hands, and she's just kind of waiting and watching, and just her eyes are closed. She's completely still as she listens for Lox's signal. And her name is Jasper.
Jasper, okay. So we have Three Fingers, Pig, Jasper, and you said Blackbird was the name, right? Okay. Okay. So we watch as these individuals lie in wait. And we see now the cause for this scene. We see this carriage approaching from the west, traveling at a decent speed, and we see that there are no there's no coachmen, there's no aristocratic, tails with nice jackets or nice jackets with tails. We see that the individuals who are driving this wagon are armed, are wearing armor. It's obvious that if they aren't already expecting trouble, that they're at least prepared for it. It kind of rounds a corner, a curve in the road, almost listing with its speed and weight as it turns into this final length of road that's going to carry it through the copse of trees that form this ambush. So as it approaches, who pulls the trigger on this trap, and what does that look like? How do you spring this ambush?
I think it's maybe as soon as Lox gives like the signal, Three Fingers' arrow, which is glistening at this point, it's got some sort of liquid on the tip of it, is shot towards and hits the lead horse. And I think it's maybe a fast acting kind of poison or paralytic that immediately kind of slows the horse.
Okay.
Down.
So yeah, I imagine like, you know, the dose that you tip to this arrow with Three Fingers is probably enough that it would have killed a humanoid. But this horse, you know, you carefully made sure that it wasn't going to just outright drop this animal, that it was merely going to be enough to cause it a lot of distress and slow it considerably. The poison, the arrow thunks into its flank, its front leg, and it whinnies and rears. And very quickly, it's obvious that something is amiss. You know, something is wrong with this animal. It starts tossing its head side to side. The rest of the horses have to slow down because they're all, you know, tethered together. And the driver is cracking the whip at the team, trying to get them to press on, not wanting to come to a stop, realizing what that likely means. Several of the individuals inside the carriage start to come to attention. Your guess is they're probably starting to arm themselves. What is the second part of this ambush or trap?
I think it's Blackbird doesn't even look up from where they've been idly poking at the ground. And it goes from 0 to 100 as they kind of race along the side of the road in the tall grasses and bushes. And as quick and as like a shadow, the wing of a blackbird, they lash out with this very long, like, sickle type weapon, as they just want to kind of nick one of the other horses that Three Fingers didn't hit.
Okay, so yeah, I imagine they're, again, probably a team of 4, so 2 by 2. You wanting to hit the other lead horse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Blackbird's going to continue on so that now they're flanking this carriage, kind of slowly starting to encircle it.
Okay, so with a flash of, you know, reflected moonlight, but barely reflected moonlight, as I would imagine that this weapon is powder coated, like Lox had described earlier to our party of main heroes. We see this slight flash out from the grasses as this sickle cuts into the flank of the second lead horse, causing it to stumble, nearly collapsing under the weight of that gimped leg now. The carriage starts to veer, favoring the side of this horse that's now been cut, lacerated, and the the carriage starts to kind of like dangerously teeter in the other direction at this rapid change in direction at the speed that they're traveling. However, they are very quickly slowing down. With their 2 lead horses injured, you know that it's probably not going to take a lot more to bring this carriage to a full stop if it doesn't just careen into a crash. What is the next part of this plan? Yes, please go ahead, Austin.
I think this is where Pig, as kind of the fail-safe overkill method, just slightly down the road, he's been waiting with a cut log, just kind of like shouldered up against it, and like seeing them coming and now still too fast to like fully stop themselves, he just drops it so it lays like drops thuds flat across the road. Generally they assume like, yeah, the horses can get over that, but the wheels are gonna have a real hard time.
Perfect. Barreling towards this thing, even at the slowing speed that they are traveling, the 2 lead horses are going to attempt to jump over this. However, both being injured, particularly in their legs, we're going to see how that plays out. The one that was shot with the arrow tries to make the jump, but kind of chickens out at the last moment. Oh, God. The one that was slashed, however, apparently being more than just a little spooked, tries to complete the jump. So with one of them attempting to try to make the jump and the other one not, there is a sharp turn in the yoke that is between these horses, and the horses go down in a heap on this log, on the other side, on the close side, and the wagon slams into the horses, the carriage coming to a very sudden stop, teetering, making this kind of loud groaning noise as the weight kind of slowly pushes it over its center of gravity, and it collapses hard onto its side. The gravel of the road and the dust kind of like shooting out from the sides of it as it comes to a stop, the wheels kind of spinning. The horses are a mangled mess. They're, crying out and trying to trample on one another to try to get back to standing, but their gear keeps them tied in place. You already hear the straining of leather straps, the breaking of wooden supports. They'll probably be free, at least the 2 rear ones, before too much longer. What is the next part of this plan?
The carriage is still upright, correct?
No, it is on its side.
It's on its side now? Okay. I think this next part, while this dust is kicking up, and this is where Jasper kind of rolls in, and she kind of, from her seated position, because she's kind of a show off like that, she kind of just leans herself forward and does a handstand and kind of quickly spins as she like turns in, and as soon as her feet hit the ground, just completely dead silent. As this dust is going up and the horses are making all this noise, she starts booking it in the direction of this entire mess that's going on. And she is going to pick off one of the guards that's the guard that's at the very furthest point in the back. And she just very, very smoothly, and as she's moving, she just reaches up, grabs those hooks, unhooks one of them, and just whips her arm around, and this rope comes off. It's about, 15 to 20 feet worth of rope or so. And she takes it and she starts kind of wrapping it around, and she starts whirling it in the air, and she lets it loose, and it grapples the guy's feet and starts to wind up around his body as she goes to kind of essentially immobilize him.
Yeah, he, scrambling to his feet, sword in hand, is very quickly pulled back to the ground as your rope does its magic. And he's cursing, trying his best to kind of like try to hack at this rope with the blade, but not doing so well as he's losing his footing. Okay. The rider on the front that was driving the carriage has been thrown from the position on the front and is beyond the team of horses on the other side of the log, kind of sailed over the head of Pig, and went face first into the gravel road. He is now trying to scramble to his feet and fish for his weapon as well. Inside the carriage, you can hear people kind of rumbling around, cursing at one another, trying their best to get oriented and to get right. Go ahead, Austin.
I think Pig would walk over to him and try to like just set his maul on the guy's back, like before he has a chance to get up. Like as soon as he lands, I kind of just want to run over and like, place the maul kind of like Mjolnir style on his back, just because hoping like he's probably disoriented enough that that'd be hard to get up from. And just like, don't.
There's a pronounced oof as the weight kind of like is placed against his back. When he realizes that, he's laid out on the ground and you have a mallet the size of his torso kind of pressed into his back, he kind of just holds his hands out to either side of himself, just not moving.
Yeah, I'll kick his weapon further away.
And what do we see Lox doing?
Lox sort of casually is walking toward this carriage with the ambush having just gone off perfectly, and he's even like as he's passing by members of the team, he's sort of like complimenting, like he's like great shot 3, and he's like walking toward the carriage and he's just like, good job everybody, went off without a hitch. And he sort of reaches in the air and there's this flare of light and the sword appears in his hand, and he sort of gives it this just theatrical little twist in the air so that it does a little, and he sort of points it towards the wagon and he goes, it's already been a hard day, do we want to make it harder?
We see the highwayman likewise at a casual pace kind of stroll up onto the scene, though he is remaining a little further back. It looks like maybe like he's letting Lox take the reins on this one, and he kind of stands back with his hands on his hips, almost like you would expect like a proud father to stand, with kind of a smirk on the only part of his face that you can clearly see. From inside the wagon, you hear a voice say, we are more than willing to surrender anything that is of value, if that is what you wish, as long as we can go unharmed.
I can promise that no harm will befall you as long as no coins leave on you. By order of the highwayman.
The door kind of like flies open on the top of the carriage. You see several sets of hands kind of rise up out of the opening, and one by one these individuals begin to climb out. Each of them looks like a sellsword. They are wearing, armor and weapons. The weapons they either leave in their sheaths or will toss them off into the grass off of the side of the road. to make a very clear show of no hostility. The last individual that climbs out of the carriage is unfamiliar to any of you who are on the scene. However, to us as an audience, we immediately recognize the gnomish stature of the rakish Nicodemus Janer, who would later go on to lead the second group of were-rats in the city of Aladalgo, known as the, if I can do this, Silver Sliver. Huh? Take a small bow. He is the last to exit the carriage, making sure to affix this wide-brimmed hat with multitude of feathers. This perfectly coiffed mustache, waxed and twirled at the edges. He climbs out with a little more effort than his compatriots and hops down onto the road, his hands also up in a show of no contest. Very well. You, as I said, it is all yours. Please, be my guest, Nicodemus says.
Wonderful. I can see that we're going to get along splendidly. Pig, relieve these fine folks of their weapons if you would, and if you all would please just step to the side and allow us to do our work. We'll be out of your hair in a jiff.
Yeah, Pig will go from one to the next, and he just very politely will take their weapon, so sorry about this. Just the way we do business. Nothing personal.
Inside the carriage, you find 4 iron-bound chests that bear the mark of a lesser noble house. The tip that you got about this wagon, in particular, this carriage, was that there was a bribe, a handsome bribe, that was being paid. The typical kind of thing, to look the other way, to ignore some piece of knowledge. But what I would like to know is that while you are relieving them of this bribe, which one of you has one of these fellows at sword point or what have you that tries a move?
Sure. Well,
Okay.
Three fingers does.
3 finger. You're kind of, I imagine, being, a skilled archer, you might be somewhat hanging back, kind of keeping an overview of this job, if you will, where you can see multiple people. One of these individuals has their hands up. It's kind of on the outskirts. It's probably actually the driver, we'll say, because he was kind of far. He was flung kind of farther away from the rest of the group. He's on the other side of the log. Pig has probably been called over to help with some of the very heavy chests. This individual has kind of looked around, and you notice his eyes getting a little shifty, and he turns and runs.
I would shoot an arrow aiming for his... We're going to go thigh.
Okay. You shoot this arrow, aiming for his thigh, trying to stop his escape. However, something happens. A slight distraction, a slight, knee-jerk reaction causing a slight miscalculation with your aim. The arrow strikes him in the back of the head. He collapses into the road. Immediately, all of the rest of the soldiers around, all the sellswords around, turn to see what happened. and a shout goes up amongst them. They're going to kill us anyway! And they all start scrambling for a fight. So what I would like is for each one of you to describe to me the ensuing scuffle that turns into a massacre. The only one that we know for a fact that walks away is Nicodemus.
Well, you guys go first because I already did my kill.
So Jasper's got this guy and he's tied up in the ropes and he was using his sword to try to hack away at the ropes and he wasn't having any luck, but what she didn't notice while he was doing it was he actually did make some purchase on the rope and it started to fray. And then once that person is shot and collapses and that man screams out that they're going to kill us anyways, the man that she's standing next to, he panics and he kind of moves and she hears just this horrifying sound as she hears that snap of her rope and she watches as it just drops to the ground around this guy and he turns and wheels on her. And if it was not for just how unbelievably like dexterous she is, she kind of dodges and bends her way around a lot of his attacks as this sword is coming, and she uses the muscle and strength he's putting behind his sword. She kind of watches his movements for a few seconds and then she predicts where he's going to go, and he actually manages to get purchase and kind of slice her shoulder open a bit as she whirls around and steps up behind him, and she just grabs his head and snaps his neck and his body just falls to the ground in front of her.
Pig has like 5 weapons, I think, like in his hands as he's been collecting them. His maul is probably back on his back. And seeing like there's probably 2 or 3 that see that he's got all the weapons in his hand and like rush him, and not having time to do anything else. All he thinks to do is just with a bundle of weapons in one hand, he just starts grabbing them and just like sticking them at people that are coming at him, and just like stabs 2 of these guys through with their own swords, and then just starts like the last one probably had like a hidden dagger and he's just trying to like fight this guy off. The other 2 are like probably I would say wounded but not necessarily dead, but just enough to like push them off him. He's not trying to kill anyone. He's probably the whole time going like, no, this isn't how it works. Like, stop fighting.
I imagine at some point there's like even like somebody who plunges a knife like deep into Pig, where like a normal person that probably would have caused them like a significant amount of pain, and Pig is just kind of like looks down at it like, what are you doing?
This wasn't the agreement.
Perfect.
So I imagine that Blackbird was helping with the chests to help take them out. And so as they were doing so, they see Pig getting rushed by a bunch of these people, and Blackbird yells out to Pig to watch out and is going to rush into the fray in order to try and help Pig, and is trying to like do the best that they can in terms of trying to get people away, but with Blackbird's very tall, very like more weak. Blackbird is definitely built for speed, not for trying to wrestle people away. But I imagine that, and if this is okay, in the fray, Blackbird feels a stab in their body.
Yeah.
And if it's okay with you, I imagine that Pig in his like trying to get people off of him accidentally struck Blackbird.
Yeah, he doesn't even notice that it was you until he's like fully like grabbed you by like the side of the head as if he's about to like try to slam you into the caravan, and kind of looks and is like, "Oh, no. No. Oh, fuck." And like and then immediately like turns and tries to punch another one that's coming at him, like barely having time to even consider what just happened.
The entire time, this gnome is still arms kind of held aloft and out to the side, is shouting, "No, no, no, you stupid fools! No, it's fine. No, 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 no." He is very clearly beside himself at this turn of events, and is making no such move on his own.
Yeah, Locke's Jawbone, he loses control of the situation immediately. Everyone is at an odd position, and he doesn't have eyes on anyone aside from, I think, Blackbird, who was helping him with the treasure chests, and Pig, because he's just so big. So he's just like completely lost sight of the thread. And as the violence breaks out, he's just like, "No, no, shit." And one of the guys like runs over with a sword, and he just barely gets his sort of arcane shield up in time to deflect the blow, and he drives his rapier into this guy. And there's this moment where he's like stabbing this guy, and they're just looking at each other, just two guys like doing a job that they don't want to do, and now they're killing each other. And he just like pulls the sword out and pushes the guy over, and then he sees Blackbird get hit by Pig, and he's just like beside himself. He's like, this is not how this was supposed to go. And he kind of looks to the highwayman, and does Lox know the highwayman's name?
The only other thing that you have heard him called, or that you have called him yourself, other than the highwayman, is Reynard.
So I would call out, "Reynard!"
You call out, you look to where he was standing just moments before, kind of from this vantage point to take this all in, and he's not there. And in an instant, you scan around and you find him bearing down on this gnome, blade drawn, and it's very obvious to you that he is about to kill this unarmed gnome.
Lox does something that he has only done a couple of times, and casts Misty Step. And there's this sort of flash of light and this plume of peacock feathers, and he just appears beside Renard and grabs his sword arm with his arm and kind of tries to pin it against his body. "No."
"What are you doing?"
This is not
says.
"Renard, this is not how we do things."
"Look around you, Jawbone. The situation is out of hand. If we let him go now, we risk everything."
"Then we risk it. He surrendered. And we promised him no harm would come to him or his men, and look what has happened. This isn't the way to do things."
That you did not choose this life for yourself, Jawbone. But it is the life that you find yourself in, and if this is what you intend to do with it, there are certain measures that you have to take into account.
There's a line. There has to be a line. relieving these rich fools of coin they ain't gonna miss, I'll do that. If a guard happens to get in the way occasionally and I have to use my sword, that's the way of things, but not this.
What is the difference? You spill blood on one hand, but save it with the other?
The difference is we're getting hurt. The difference is the gold ain't worth this blood, this much of it.
And letting this one pompous gnome live, that somehow will make the difference in what we have done, in what you have done, and the blood that you have spilled?
No, but if anything's going to make a difference, maybe it'll be that. I'm a fighter, not a murderer, Renard.
Kind of takes a step back, sheathing his sword with some amount of force. Perhaps I was wrong about you. Maybe you are not cut out for this kind of life.
What are you saying?
You had such promise. You were put in charge of this job, but look around. So many have died now. Does not even seem as though Blackbird may make it through. But you are willing to let this witness go, who could jeopardize everything. And for what? Your conscience? Your moral compass? I am the highwayman. One day I had hoped perhaps you too could take on the mantle. But I think that you are through here, Jawbone. You wish to let this gnome go? He kind of turns towards the gnome. You are free to go. Nicodemus takes no second telling, immediately turns and runs off into the tall grasses. And he turns back to you and he says, "You should go as well."
Is that what you really want?
No, it is not what I want. I want it... Jawbone. It's always so difficult with you. All the others, they are happy to have someone guide them, to lead them. You, it's... You always want to know why. You always need to know the balance of everything. Life does not work that way. There are some who have everything, and there are others who have nothing. That is the way that the world works. That is why we do what we do. This trying to be a thief on one hand and trying to be a savior on the other, it will lead to nothing but heartache and disappointment for you. So yes, now this is what I want. Take Blackbird. Take them to the closest town, try to find some form of healing. Maybe they won't die. But both of you are done here. I have no further use of you.
Lox is sort of speechless. He kind of looks around, maybe even making eye contact with some of the other bandits that are gathered around, and sort of finding no comfort. He walks over and he sort of like loops his arm up under Blackbird's arm and like gets them up and sort of letting them lean on him. He looks back at the highwayman and says, "You know, I've had everything and I've had nothing. And it's all the same shit." And he'll just start walking off down the road, sort of half dragging Blackbird alongside him.
The highwayman is turned his attentions to cutting the horses free, the ones that are uninjured. And he cuts one of them free with enough length on its reins that he can lead it. And he leads it over to you and kind of pushes them towards you in a hand, almost as an apology, almost like a parent who's been too strict with a child, but not wanting to relent the stance that he's taken. Here, we'll travel faster this way.
He takes the reins and just like nods and helps Blackbird up onto one of the horses.
Don't let me see you on the road to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Bird. Sorry.
As you start to ride away, Lox, the last thing that you hear the highwayman say is, "Do not let me ever catch you on the road to Manchalona again, Jawbone." And I think that's where we're going to end
under his
the
breath
session.
as he's riding away. Lox just says, "Don't worry, you sure as hell won't."
Perfect. Yeah, so that's where we're going to end the session this evening. Y'all are amazing. Like, I literally was like, we'll do a flashback scene, and everybody will play brigands. It's fine. And of course, all of you like took this amazing direction of like one of you literally throwing themselves onto the sword of another one and created this great moment. Just what a joy.
My favorite part was when that happened, and I mean, we've known this character for 10 minutes and everyone goes like, "Oh no."
Yep.
No, I
like
was so
Jeremy
invested.
audibly gasped. Like it was like
Yeah, it was totally unexpected. Absolutely. But that's just the voodoo that you do all so well. So thank you. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here. We will come back next month. Hopefully, we'll have to talk about scheduling, because I know that that's the day before Thanksgiving here in the States. So I don't know what that's going to mean for everybody's schedule, but we'll work that out in our chat and come up with a solution. So hopefully soon we will be back and we'll play through the next session. So I'm going to pass things back over to the players so that they can give any kind of parting words that they would like to before we put a bow on this thing and put it to bed. So we're going to start in reverse order with Karen.
Hello, everyone. Karen Mithinger's here. If I'm not here on this channel, you can find me over at Mini Terrain Domain. As always, an amazing session. I love playing this game so much. I can never wait for the next one to happen. I'm always like, can we do it now? Can we do it now? Can we do it now? And I'm never disappointed either. It's always so lovely, and playing with all of you guys is just chef kiss. Love you all. Pass it on to Austin.
Oh, that was such a blast. I love a road episode. Always so fun. I'm so excited that we finally met someone that makes Guillaume look civilized and uh, measured in his conversation. And I cannot believe how quickly we all got attached to those characters. I'm already like drafting up like a character sheet for Pig in my head. I'm like, well, that character is somebody I'm playing in another game who is just like a giant hairless man. Um, but yeah, no, I was so worried for like, I was like, I was working through my head of like, okay, well, we've got to like deal with the Blackbird situation first. We got to make sure she's okay. I'm like, this is a flashback, Austin. Get your shit together. Um, this was a blast. I cannot wait to play. Fuck Thanksgiving. Let's just fucking play through Thanksgiving. We probably have the day off. Okay. Anyway, I will pass it off to Haha.
Yeah, excellent, excellent game. I love the seeing the dichotomy now between this asshole noble and Guillaume, because it's like, look at this growth. This is character development right here. The fact that Sylvie does not feel that way anymore about Guillaume is so great. It's very, very cool. It's a very cool it's a very, very cool moment to show that. And um yeah, just such great characters again, just making it so real and so amazing, the world. So had a blast. Can't wait for next session. And I'm Canadian, so I'm ready. I can play next month. But I will pass it off to Matt.
Hello everyone, I'm Matt. I played Locks, and yeah, what a fun session. I totally agree, Austin. I love a like journey session when you're just like you're on the road, you're having little conversations on the road, shit's happening on the road. It's fun and a nice sort of change of pace. And yeah, I love how Guillaume was like, get a load of this asshole, right, guys? Like he wasn't that exact person like 18 sessions ago or whatever. But yeah, how to blast was a lot of fun to play through some like Locke's backstory stuff, and just start unpacking all of his weird daddy issues with like multiple people. And it's fantastic. So thank you again, as always, Jeremy. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off to Kenya.
Wow, I mean, I agree with everyone. The Guillaume growth story is a highlight of the session. It was amazing. I love this game so much. I was telling someone about it and I said it is just such a unique gaming experience with you guys in this session, and just how it all plays out and how you DM, Jeremy. And I mean, I've watched a lot of your games and you have your own style and stuff, but it is my first time in a game with you, and it's such a unique way to do it. I just love here's the setting. Now each of you describe this thing you think about while you're on the road, and it's just, I enjoy it so much because it builds so much character without having to go into sessions long stories and pulling all of this out. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so damn enjoyable. It just drives me nuts that this game is only once a month. But anyways, I have no plans on the day before Thanksgiving, so I am team let's do this. And I'm gonna toss it back to you, Jeremy.
Thank all of you very, very much. Yeah, this game is very, very special to me. I mean, all of my games are special to me, but in different ways. And again, the richness and the depth that we're able to explore into a lot of what makes all of these people tick is fascinating for me. So getting to kind of slowly peel back these layers and start to understand a lot of the things that we already know to be true, but given context now, like shown in a new light, it just kind of helps to round them out even further. And it's, I don't know, it's very interesting. It's almost like learning something pivotal about somebody that you've known really well for a long time, and finding out, you know, that it's so informative to who they are and the way that they do things and their why. And if we can get to the point where the characters that we're playing in a game feel like that, to me, that's the goal. That's like the epitome of what we're doing, of storytelling. So the fact that I can be that invested in what's going on, yeah, I'm just thrilled as an audience member, even, but also just the fact that that I get to take part in this, and to bring the world of Rostfin and the kingdom of Gerdes to life through this particular story. We're getting to touch on so many different aspects of that culture, and again, make it into a fully believable, fully realized place filled with real people, and that's very, very special to me. So thank all of you very much. Again, I say it every time, but thank you for being phenomenal players in addition to incredible role players. You're all very, very great people to just spend 3-4 hours once a month, as sadly as it is, just fucking around and telling dirty stories and making cracking jokes, but also having deep, poignant moments that help develop these stories and these characters. So it is truly a treasure of mine. So thank you. For anybody who is watching this evening, whether you watched live with us or whether you tune in at some point down the road, it is deeply appreciated. The fact that this gets engagement, the fact that there are people that are finding entertainment from these stories that we're telling is also very special to me. So thank you. If you like what you saw this evening, then do all the things that the algorithm likes to see. Hit the like button, subscribe, share it around, talk about it with people. That's how this channel grows. That's how it continues to collect great players from around the globe. So yeah. Same thing that I say at the end of every game, and that is that kindness is a free action. It doesn't cost you anything to be nice, and it could make all the difference in somebody's day, week, month, year. You never know. You don't know the battles that somebody is fighting. So if it costs you absolutely nothing and it could make all of the difference to someone else, that's a simple transaction. That's easy. So the world needs a lot more kindness in it. So go out and be kind. All right, I'm going to get down off my soapbox and put this thing to sleep. So I think that's where we're going to leave it. And until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.